East London around, and then finished around last year. So I came back Malaysia and now. So yeah, here I am.
Nice. I think we have people from different places. Oh yeah, Clarissa Lim. Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, you messaged me earlier, so yeah, just introduce yourself for a bit. So since you have a nice
Sure. Hi, I'm Clarissa. I studied in Hong Kong, worked and researched in Hong Kong. Now I'm back here teaching at MIA, Malaysian Institute of Art, as a lecturer of Interior Architecture program, as well as research for the British Council, Sunshine Derby. It's a lot of partners about creative and cultural spaces in the context of Malaysia.
I see. But you're from Malaysia, just that you studied in Hong Kong previously, is it?
I grew up in Hong Kong actually, but yeah, I'm Malaysian.
I see.
My birthright.
Wow. Okay. We have a quite diverse crowd tonight.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, let me pick who else haven't introduced himself or herself. Any volunteers? This is like going to lecture mode.
Lecture mode.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi. Wow, you have a mic though. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's for my class conference actually.
Wow, so you have to speak in your class conference.
Sometimes.
Okay. So you want to
So
introduce yourself?
I'm Riyad Haikal. I'm a graduating student from UiTM Puncak Alam. So it's my final semester, and I was introduced with this program from Architect Qhawarizmi's Instagram.
I see.
So yeah.
Oh, so Kawa has already a die-hard fan here already. Okay. Looking forward. So as you can see, we have our two speakers here already, Peggy and Kawa. So later I will do a bit of introduction of them and also the topic for they are going to present. Just want to touch base a bit on the questions that you guys have submitted. I actually read through them. It's very, very interesting. I think I'm just gonna read some of them out because I find it rather intriguing to have like a bit of warm up. So I think one of the panels asked these questions because today's topics I posted earlier was about small practice, but in fact, rather than focus on just small practice, we're also looking into research and also education, like mostly on that part, rather than just small practice itself. So some of the questions actually asked, I think Ivanka actually asked, at what size will you limit the expansion of your studio or practice to make sure the lightness and the clarity of your design directions and progress of your firm? I think it's something that we can discuss later, as in like what size should your firm be? And also the art of convincing to client. Some of the questions. Yeah, we can go through them later. Oh, Gary is here. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Mr. Podcast.
And yeah, hi.
Mr. Podcast.
Hi.
Use your mic.
Many familiar faces here. Even Ian is here. Good to see Ian. Even though Ian not knowing me, but I know him as a lecturer in Taylor's.
Oh my. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good to see Qhawarizmi architect is it Kawa? Oh, okay.
If you pronounce
it's
wrong, then you have to leave the group.
But I know the studio he have is quite similar to MDRDB, so I just recognize that lah.
Wow. All right.
It's like five letters in Malaysia, which is quite established. And I noticed his works from competitions and things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
nice.
good to see everyone here. Cheers.
I think half of us here are your students, Mr. Ian, but maybe you don't recognize us.
Yeah, most of you are new actually. I mean, I didn't sort of tutor many of you, but I kind of made friends with some of you. So hopefully we're still friends. I've actually got 2 direct students here from glancing at the whole pixelated screen. Would you like to take a guess who my 2 students are?
Friends.
Have friends, it's your student.
Yeah,
You mean current student?
definitely, yeah. Yeah, so just have friends and somebody else.
Aiden?
No, I never taught Aiden.
It's not Aiden.
No. Yeah, I hope he hasn't disappeared. He said he was very, very shy, but
Let me rescue this awkward silence
okay, yeah.
by, hi Amir, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello.
Surprised to see you here. I'm glad.
I didn't know Concrete Matter was you.
Oh
And
Aww.
Selamat Hari Raya to everyone.
Selamat Hari Raya. Maaf.
Okay, I don't know what else to say.
You should probably introduce yourself for a bit and where you are right now and what you're doing.
Okay, I'm at home right now, obviously.
Oh.
In my final year of architecture in UITM. And I happen to be Riyad Haikal's studio mate.
So you guys together or like you guys sign out separately?
Came separately, just randomly saw each other here.
We came separately. We bumped each other in here.
Okay. Good. So go ahead and spread to your classmate, get your whole classmate here. Okay.
Hello everyone.
Okay, yep, that is 15 minutes already. So perhaps we have more coming in later. So we can start right now. It's 8:15. So first of all, thank you everyone for signing up and also joining the 6th sharing session of Concrete Matters. Today we have, at the beginning, 41 participants, which is more than the last time. So I'm very happy that everyone took an interest in this. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do a bit of introductions of what is actually Concrete Matters. So it started off last month, April, when Singapore entered lockdown. So please let me know if my voice is lagging or etc. All right. So it started off last month, then with the intention of inspiring people like through design during this COVID-19 lockdown, and also try to test out using a digital platform to share ideas. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of sharings and also podcasts around. So this is one of it, but it's dedicated to more on local, like Malaysia or Singapore regions architect. Hopefully you can expand more. So our audience right here, as we through some introductions just now, they are like at different places. Some audience overseas, UK, Hong Kong, Vietnam, yeah, etc. Whose background is that? Yeah, so anyways, I hope you enjoy this 2 hours session. So some etiquette. I'm gonna mute you, Adam. I'm so sorry. You can unmute yourself later. Okay, so just some quick etiquette. So later we are going to have 30 minutes of first speaker, and then you have 30 minutes of Q&A, and then we have an intermission break, and then 30 minutes by the second speakers, and then 30 minutes Q&A. So during the speakers speaking, if you have any questions or queries, or you can just write it down in the chat tab below. So after the sharing, we will read out the questions, and then we will just discuss it and have fun, talk about it. All right, and then Also, if you are leaving, if you have to leave early, please let me know. Like just text me privately in the chat, or just let the group know, so that it's a courtesy just to let everyone know. All right, and yeah. So and then remember the question that you asked. Please don't be rude and please don't be racist, or you can be critical, but please don't touch anything that's inappropriate. Okay. Okay, we have a new one coming in. Okay, so so concrete matters. We try to do it with a different team every week. So to this week, we have Mr. Kawal sharing on his practice, running on 3 different platforms, which have the MDRXA Research Studio, and also his commercial practice Praktika, and also his competition platform, which is Qhawarizmi Architects. And then we have Miss Pei, all the way in Budapest right now. She will be sharing mostly on her AA visiting summer school program in Budapest. All right, so without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Kawal to share his session. Thank you. Hi. Let me unmute you. Oh. Are you gonna use sign language? Can you?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Should I share my screen or?
Yes, you can also introduce yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. This is Qhawarizmi. Yeah. So, am I starting now or?
Yes, you can.
All
start.
right. So the sharing today is hashtag Dear Hassan, just to sort of reimagine ourselves to be young and free. We don't have much obligation or direction per se. So this is a reflection. I'm talking to myself, to my dear self, that how do I start doing architecture and where we are going. So it is fairly obvious that we all start from somewhere, and most likely when we do, we don't know where we are going. My earlier experience in what we call design or space appreciation comes from mainly video games. I think it is a very gory game, Doom 2 in Windows 95. But it teach a lot of appreciation of spatial awareness, where space is fairly important for you to move about. It's a 2D game designed in Fox or pseudo 3D environment. So it is an interesting game, and eventually games get better and games look like this. This is SimCity 3. It looks a bit more like a simulation. It looks like a game that look like your work, and your work starting to look more like a game. So that's more or less what happened. But some people do come and help us to shine the light. So you can see there's a whole lineage of people in UiTM. I think not many people talk about teachers, local teachers, local academia that actually make a difference. Tuan Syed Sobri is obviously retired. He's been there for years. And of course, I learned a lot from Architect Wan Azhar, and myself and Yasmin. Yasmin is my wife. We are on the same batch. Actually, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people that shared in this platform before is, more or less coming from the same batch of people. Like Sam. Sam is my junior. Adra as well, my junior. Sheila is 2 semester older. So 2 semester up from me. So we are more or less coming from that generation that learned from Wan Azhar, Jamshid and whatnot. And of course, at the last part, I believe I inspire some people to actually do something with their architectural journey. So the things that I learned the most is that you need to sort of have a tool, have a filter. So this is the first organization per se or platform practice, which is MDRXA, talking about mainly research in architecture and things that relate to architecture. And of course, as a lot of competitions actually need a actual registered firm, I took upon myself to open out Qhawarizmi Architect, which is a sole proprietor. And when things got a bit more serious, I opened out a bit more established firm, which is Sunan Berhad, which is Praktika Architect Sunan Berhad. So this have more partners, more senior people to be running the practice together. So in short, you can see MDRXA as a shovel. It's very rough, you know, broad stroke, with the intention of abstraction. And Qhawarizmi Architect is more directional, form giving, but still is conceptual. And you know, practice has to be accurate. It has to be detailed. It is contractual. So you know, obviously we don't want to get sued. We don't want to go to jail, stuff like that. So this is sort of the apparatus, the range of tools. So in any given you know, undertaking, we can tune ourselves to this particular to you know, specific direction depending on the need. So what I did with this tool is that I use them to enter competitive design. So mainly because in sports, for example, a small country like Jamaica can be in the forefront of the world just because they are good at marathon. So I mean, obviously it's very hard to compete with large established firm. So I think competition is a good leveler. You can see a lot of people get known due to competition. John Utzon, Suno Heta, Duluga Mizel. So all this, you know, all competition is actually a great leveler. So I'm just gonna straight right into the first project, I guess. So a lot of people live in stratified home, and basically, if you look at it carefully, stratified home is nothing more like a submarine, because you have this, you know, telescope. Once in a while, you go to that telescope. What you can see, actually, telescope can be metaphorical, you know, representation of windows. Mostly, you're gonna spend like 10 minutes looking out of your windows, and then you're gonna retreat to the interior. So, you know, except your interior doesn't look like this, most likely you're gonna look more or less like this. And basically, these two things are not designed together. Basically, things that inside your home is industrial design. Things that is containing the home is architecture. So you can see that architecture are trying to contain industrial design, which sometimes relatively problematic because they don't have a similar language. And you can see that there's something wrong with our interior. So we have to, we kind of take upon ourselves to look at it, what's up. So this is one of my, you know, method getting towards design. I always like to think negative. I know it's fairly, you know, weird, but only when you think of negative, you can discover the obvious. Because if you are, you know, thinking about good stuff, there's nothing much to explore. I think if you look at how people describe other people, you can, you know, extract their negative traits, you know, faster than their positive ones. So getting to know your house, we look upon like a standard 3-bedroom house. Like this is fairly small. It's not even 900 square feet. But, you know, we just running through. I just want to, the point is, whenever you bought a house, you bought 100% of them. But because of walls, ducts, pipes, and whatnot, you are only able to enjoy 87. Then if you put a moderate amount of furnitures, this is what, as we simulating, you can only like walk or enjoy 66 part of it. But of course, due to the mortgage thing, you're actually paying 185% of your house. So actually, if you look at all the types, as you go smaller, your efficiency go lower. So as you can see, the 750 square feet is fairly, you know, only half of them you can walk. So that's why your house feels small. That's why, yeah, properties that doesn't justify their price. And of course, in a duplex unit, it's a little bit more efficient due to the fact that they don't have much walls. It's a studio unit. That's why. So there's a lot of space occupied by our walls. So we are thinking, what if we can just simply, you know, have this duplication of surface not to happen. So if we can have them squeezed together, hopefully we can save some. So ultimately, we want to increase the amount of space that it is walkable or enjoyable. So if you think about it, it is more like your apps. You can exchange parts, exchange, update your modules, stuff like that. And they should work, intergenerational modules should work together. So your kitchen parts, your dining, your living should be able to be changed over time. Of course, it will correlate the module, the framework, the dimension will correlate to urban scale up to utensil. So this is actually a competition that we proposal we submit for a competition for Gamuda IBS housing competition, and we asked them to, instead of thinking about physical building, why don't we propose sort of a document how to think about domestic architecture. So this is the basic modules, because the limitation of IBS panel, IBS, IBS means industrial building system, industrialized building system. So it's actually a building that made of components like Lego. So they can be mutated into whatever form that they have, whatever site that they would have in the future, and it will look more or less like this. We have a simple iteration of these blocks, and we try. This is the we'll be given a hypothetical site, so we are responding to that site. So the building will look more or less like this, and basically we try to ensure that it is more or less standardized, obviously, and then still create this unique proposition of spatial experience. Yeah, I will not go through, I mean, of course, there's a lot of things to see there, but it is basically, that's how it looks. So what we're trying to do is that we don't hate a game, create one for others to play. So the idea was, we don't like to, for example, a Lego, right? We don't like to be the person that actually play the Lego. We like to be the person that actually create the Lego. So that's why we establish a basic for other people to jump in. Obviously, this is fairly vanilla. Anyone can go in and then do their own, their own thing. So let's say IKEA wants to hop on this on this system, or any whatever furniture shop, whatever furniture manufacturer wants to hop in, they can just abide to the frameworks, or buy their licensing, purchase their licensing from Gamuda, stuff like that. So we are moving Gamuda away from actually selling physical homes, not only homes. We are, we're saying to them, you can sell license, stuff like that can go into your house. So the house is actually come like this, it's empty. So you can, pop in any modules, whatever, and you can fill up to the brim like this, up to its full. But the main thing is that when it is standardized across developments, these modules have second-hand value, market on the value on the second-hand market. So the idea was to ensure that it is exchangeable, it's very simple, it's more or less like a drywall meshed together with furniture. To accommodate new homeowners, obviously there's a lot of things to consider. So we're thinking of creating a UI for them, choosing their unit, location of their unit, and eventually try to get through these templates of, obviously this is for the masses. So we establish some sort of templates for them, and they can go through the templates. Obviously you can, customize it later, but this is when you want to get your first home, during your vacant possession, you can go through section A to section Z. You can see that there's a lot of sections, and then you can choose your modules as you please. And basically, the house try to accommodate different situations, different scenarios. Obviously, there's a lot of property hanging. So it is good if you have this flexible product. The developers can keep on repackaging the product. The homeowners can have this house relevant more than 20 years, hopefully. So when they have more child, they can compartmentalize more rooms. If they don't, they can have this very open bachelor kind of layout. Or if they're running their startup practice, they can have that here too. So the design has explicitly tried to allow more surface to the external surface, ensuring light and ventilation to all. That's why it looks like this zigzaggy L shape. But of course, in this particular proposal, there is 22 unit type. So, there's a lot of creative stuffs going on. So the only thing that is fixed is the external wall and also the toilet. So we wanted for this against, big people, big names, GDP, GSD, Veritas. So we are happy. All right, moving forward, there's a lot of things going on right now, especially on the online market space. I think a lot of people, has accustomed to buying online. Now during the COVID-19, people are buying fresh food online as well. But people still like to go to the market. You can see a lot of market become the epicenter of COVID-19 transmission. But a lot of market has very simple infrastructure and they are poorly maintained. And then of course, there's a lot of ad hoc additional structures by the vendors. And at the end of the day, it's a question of ready meal versus homemade meal. Do you really need to go to the market, or you just need to get to the ready meal food? So some people like to order from Grab as well, and market sometimes could be seen as redundant. There's a lot of problem with market. One of them is that a lot of people have to go through empty and closed stalls, which is not nice. I mean, just imagine in the shopping mall, like 30% of shop you pass through is closed. It doesn't give that good vibe. Sometimes, vendors has packed and cleaned their stalls, but you still have to walk through that particular area and then you leave food marks. And this is how it looks. You have to go around because most markets is open plan design. The produce is, bundled, clustered together, of course, but because of the poor directional navigational cues, you tend to go around and find your produce in a random, not random lah, but you will overlap some circulation. And yeah, obviously you need to go through something to get to somewhere. You need to go through veggie to get to fruits. You need to go through seafood to get to meat, stuff like that. It's not good. And a lot of them feature horizontal floor and large horizontal floor, artificial lighting. It is almost required even though you are operating in daylight. And obviously we have this cloud of white beams, white under slab, which is not good as well. You can see that this is an example in SS15 market. And in this PJ section 14 market, if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of cross-contamination happening. Vegetable is just right there, the water splash from the seafood vendor, stuff like that. So this will not help, improve food safety, will not improve the outlook and customer appreciation. And some market like this, for example, in Jalan Pasar Perak is fairly mixed up. So there's not even a non-halal section. This is mixed side by side. So it's kind of making it weird, and basically try to we try to address all of this. We do look, maybe I'll just skip through. We do go around, and this is Pasar Borong Selangor, and try to look at percentage and allocation of programs in this particular market. This is Pasar SS15. You can see there's a lot food and beverage, most likely because of the office worker around. This is in Digital Mall, I think, yeah. So we go through 8 markets actually. So I'm just showing you 4, but ultimately you can see that our market is more similar to Pasar TTDI with elevated market floor, which we'll see later on. So market in Penang, by the way, this is a competition of existing market in Penang that we have to relocate. So market in Penang start with a street market. Eventually, it goes into a simple structure, shared structure like this. I think there's a lot of simple set structure like this around in Taiping. I think I have been made known that there's such beautiful market in Taiping as well. And obviously, as cars occupy the street, we can't use the street anymore for market trading. So they build more permanent structure. Eventually, that permanent structure is full. People start occupying nearby shop lots, shop houses to accommodate complementary trading. And of course, a full integrated structure like Pasar Chaurasta is a new iteration of evolution of market in Penang. So you have parking structures, hall, community hall, general goods section, stuff like that. So to cut short, basically we can see that market in Penang is never a shed. It's actually a particular neighborhood. So it is a collective, collective amount of traders that makes the market the market. So I would say, I love nasi kerabu. I think there's a beauty in it. If you haven't tried it, you should. You can appreciate the magic of mixing it all up. I think Penang is very rich, and it's food related. So if you look at it, if you could imagine this as a plate of nasi kerabu, there's the blue rice, the ayam percik, the santan, stuff like that. So it is designed to look like a small city. So we actually design each houses to house each produce. So there will be meat house, seafood house, veggie house, fruit house, stuff like that. And in the middle, it will be flanked by open space like a plaza or courtyard, say. And there is a clock tower for navigation, so you kind of know where you are going based on that view. So you can appreciate the market. So the market look like this: general goods and food sections, and on the second floor, which is the market floor. So there's not many elevated market floor, but Penang is fairly dense. There's a lot of parking requirements, stuff like that. So we kind of elevate the ground. There's another reason, Jelutong, in the neighborhood of Jelutong, there's always flash flood. I think there's one time that Goeng are asking for ATM or federal government to come in. So this is the kind of neighborhood that kind of have all markets are on the ground floor. So the market cannot be operational after the flood due to the fact that they have to clean up and stuff like that. So we elevate them for that particular reason. The section will go through, so you can see that the produce is housed in each different shed, and then basically it is well connected to the surrounding. The ground is mainly for the parking, and we can let it flood if it happen. The idea was, if you look at it, when we put the market shed on this floor, we can have an infinite sky upward. So we don't have that white beam or white under slab anymore. So it gives you the impression of the volume. You can appreciate ventilation light a bit more. And we won first prize for this against big names as well, ALM Architects, Veritas, and we are the only entry that does not reside in Penang, doesn't have an office in Penang. So it's kind of weird. We presented this to the Chief Minister, the Mayor, and of course the Member of Parliament, yada. But of course, we need to be sensitive. There's a lot of life involved in this. There's a lot of traders, almost 300 traders. So we need to be sensitive. So the idea was to really look at what they have to say, trying to accommodate their concern. And what we did is that we did a public participatory design workshop. We have 4 modules. We have 50 over participants, and we try to do this in tri-language, like a truly Malaysian way. Hokkien, English, and Malay is being used for all instruction and announcement. So I have some students from Taylors to help me, and some students from USM, because obviously it's in Penang. So so they are very happy due to the fact that we care about them, because they are coming there all guns blazing to object or create chaos. At the end of the day, I said we don't have anything designed yet. We need your input. So it is true. We have moved the design. You can see this is the latest one. It doesn't look anything like the previous building because we have to change sides. It still features a lot of good things. So we have this temple complex at the back, and because we replaced the existing one, and we have the festivity crescent that you can close, Hungry Ghost Festival, stuff like that. So you can still have an alternative draw off, and the circulation still works. And this is the crown jewel of this particular market. There's a logistic core of 12 bays for cargo lift, dry storage, cold storage, and B2B sections. And then the first floor feature food court and service-based business, tuition center, barber shop, saloon, stuff like that. And of course, on this floor, where the car can go up, you can go and see the full video of the project in our YouTube channel. So we feature this departure arrival island and then over departure arrival foyer, sort of like your airport. So you can come here, and then we have 5 lanes ready for you. to drop off your passenger if you're a Grab driver or e-hailing service. Grab your your elderly, people that with disability, children, or even pick up your wife. So you can take your car from ground and pick up whatever whoever you need on top. It features this linkage of roads, boulevard, and alleyways that actually connect all these markets. So you can see there's plant-based market, and then on this side, and then animal-based market on that side. We are respecting dietary restriction of vegan. We obviously they can't smell. I mean the smell of chicken or meat might make them vomit. We try to respect that, and of course we have Muslim dietary confinement. We have a total separate non-halal section, which is good because most market actually has shunned away their non-halal section. In Pasar TTDI, non-halal section is on the ground. The only market that is on the ground. The rest is on the first floor and second. And in Pasar SS15, actually you can't get to the non-halal section from the market. You need to, go to the asal. If you went on this particular market, you will know. So in a way, we try do justice on both sides. We try to elevate, non-halal market to a prominent place, a good place, and then the rest of the dietary we try to respect. So when you go through here, you can curate, narrate your own journey. So this is when we're not doing architecture or hobby per se. So you need to always be 100, I would say. So those market that you saw is actually been published into this easy to read research pamphlet, and we have habitation as well for the house. There's a lot of underlying concepts, thoughts behind it, but we try to make it snappy. It's not that much of a word. You can read through very fast. And of course, we have done this for others project as well. So we have 5 right now in the series. You can get them either through our website or Shopee. You can just find them if you're interested. Or there's a free engagement. We have YouTube channel. Of course, we upload a video a week. And there's a sound. So the idea was so this is one of unique one. This is our first project that we are doing crowdfunding. So obviously it's crazy. We need like 140 mil, and right now we have like 250,000 raised. But this is sort of like a business school. Try to using the model of endowment. So you can, if you have more money, you can, get the auditorium name after you, ballroom name after you, stuff like that. So we are involved in creating this crowdfunding material. So it is beyond a bit more beyond just architecture. We do branding. We try to reposition what is the project could be, and we try to help them using social media means. And of course, this is I think the first time it's been made public. It's actually not been approved yet by UiTM, but it is more or less that the information, the project, blah blah. I used to teach in tailors. The keyword is used to teach in tailors for 6 years. So this is some of the studio that I ran back then. Yeah, it's fairly interesting. Sometimes when you're not in office, so for example, like this House Vision is actually a Japanese-based architecture research about house with people like Sao Fujimoto, Kengo Kuma, Atelier Bawao, that kind of caliber. So when they come here to do a Malaysian franchise, this is in GDP. We actually participated in, and of course, a lot of others, good architects. Actually, we are coming in as an internal research unit. So we sort of create this framework where other architects can mingle around, but unfortunately, not a lot of architects have the time to do this pro bono exercise. So we kind of get a slot as a participant as well. On top of that, on the international stage, I am the Malaysian representative in Architects for Akija, Council of Young Architects. So in a regional body such as Akija, we have 21 country members, and basically each country will have a representative to talk about the issues regards to young architects. And this is my first international speaking gig in Vietnam. I think very honored to be invited, and followed by Bangladesh. And this year actually already been scheduled to talk in Indonesia and Philippines. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 deterred that plans. And I'm also went to Milan for a month for Hazana Design Residency in Politecnico di Milano. So it is a good experience under the patronage of Hazana. Of course, we went there with other 3 Malaysians, Angus, Peyang, and also Amin. So this is some of our works that we did there, exploring what landscape 4.0 could mean in an old military site. And of course, we do a lot of other things as well. There's an engagement tool for Think City JB. We did a research on master plan. They asked us to design a master plan here. We say no, we don't want to, because this Sungai Segat has been done like thousands of times. So instead, what we do give them is a tool that they can recreate the design, infinitely. So you can create iteration after iteration of design using this tool. We pass it to them. And of course, my long-lasting legacy will be in the form of my son. Kaiser is around the studio, around the office. We are all, architecture is all around him. And I hope all of us at the end of the day can be shameless. So shameless in terms of grabbing opportunities, be greedy to learn more things, and don't be afraid that your small niche has no sort of market value, or what I call it, prospect. In the end of the day, in the future, you just need to know very little to be very good. I mean, certain people just do 3D, certain people just do animating, certain people just do coding. So as small as you thought that it might not have value for now, but in the future it could be, endless. So that not all hope is lost. I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening.
Woo! Thank you. Wow, that's a very jam-packed and intense session. Thank you so much, Mr. Kawal.
Yeah, I tried to get it on the dot in 30 minutes, so.
Yeah. I think it's great. Thank you so much. But I think there's a lot of info, and I think we are very impressed as well. And then, yes, we do have a few questions here. So the rest, if you have any more questions, you can pop in right now. So yeah, I think you presented a lot of projects, and also some of the pro bono and some of the workshops, and also educations and research. Maybe let's just start with the first project that you have shown, the one with the housing. So I think Clarissa actually asked for the first project. Do you want to ask by yourself?
Me? Sure. I'd like to learn a little bit more about the modular units. Would you imagine them as a singular material solution as your drawing suggests? Or is it a bit more like a kit of parts? Like, for example, like Situ, Brooklyn Library, how they kind of made, because it feels quite, how do you say, monolithic. I feel like the lack of customizability might not be, I don't know. I want to hear a bit more about the materiality. Another question about that is, in terms of layout, I wonder if have you heard about David Benjamin's work at The Living? He teaches in Columbia. He uses Autodesk to kind of generate almost machine-like algorithmic input. Like he works with Autodesk to create a variety of layouts almost instantaneously, dependent on light, ventilation, and key points, as a way of organizing space rather than a physical movement of space that you suggest with your modular furniture. I wonder if that's if that's possible in terms of residential, or if you have any thoughts about that, his work.
Yeah. Right. So obviously, as I mentioned, we try to move away from actually selling physical stuff. So what we propose to Gamuda is actually, doing the route of licensing. So the licensing will be in a form of, if you want to, design modules from Gamuda, you need to pay a certain, amount of things. So it is more like software developers trying to be on, let's say, Apple's platform. So they kind of have to pay a licensing fee to be on that platform or stuff like that. So material is not an issue. You can, substitute it to any other things. Obviously, we try to make it a bit more simpler for people to understand. So it is made of, laminated wood, stuff like that. Stuff like we actually built our cabinets from today. So we try to make it a bit more, because the idea is fairly new to them. I mean, they have been selling houses, selling space, selling physical things. Now we say to them, don't sell anything physical, just sell, hypothetical licensing rights, stuff like that. So we try to make it simple. Even that, they don't fully understand it. That's why we got third, I believe. If they do truly understand what it means, like the power and the amount of power they have. I mean, just imagine if they're producing millions of square feet and everything has to be abide to this particular licensing rule. It could be, they can make like triple, four, or I don't know. It is fairly limitless. About the work, I think what I like about houses is that it doesn't have, I mean, of course, the work is good in order to, simulating possibilities, stuff like that. But house is a reflection of the occupant. So some imperfection, I think, is good, because, I mean, of course, it calculates the light, the usage well to the T, I would say, because of numbers, data crunching and whatnot. But the fact that houses is imperfect, there is some, awkward, unexplainable preference. You need to have that shelf there or some weird stuff. I think that's good as well. I mean, of course, some building topologies like production building factories need that level of efficiency. But for house, I think it's a place where you can, be stupid, be yourself, per se. So yeah, it could be good for people that like that 100% efficiency, but they also cater for imperfections.
I don't think what David Benjamin talks about is about 100% efficiency, but rather there are imperfections, and he kind of shifts and modulates the space almost immediately as a response. So I think that's the beauty of his work. But yeah, I think I agree with you with the idea of the imperfections of residential space.
Yeah, we hope it will be hijacked. Obviously, we did not design it to be very rigid, actually.
I see.
So yeah, the homeowner can go in, hijack, make their own modules, stuff like that, change out with the neighbors, stuff like that.
Then I see some parallels between your setup. You're also selling a system, much like how he's selling it.
Yeah.
I think to touch a bit on the system and also the luxuries of customization. How do you see that? Like, because like you mentioned earlier, like all these furniture, they are laminated woods, and they are simple, they are easily obtained, affordable. But the luxuries of customization, does it comes with a cost as well? As in, like, how does it related to waste? Like people just simply change their mind. Oh, I feel like having another shelf the next day, and then the existing shelf will be demolished, just throw away. Isn't that generate more waste?
So first of all, this is definitely not touching the custom interior design, which you have an interior designer come in, stuff like that. This is for the masses. We try to make good design a bit more available to everyone. So in order for them to go through this saving space, not letting your space be underneath your walls. So the idea was we try to somehow, of course, the first thing you can see when people buy a house, the first thing they will do is that they will throw the sink away, they will throw the door away, start renovating. I think it's fairly common in terrace housing and also any stratified house. So the idea was you can customize before you go in. So that is the first step of waste, saving waste in the first place. And then the second round, when you want to refurbish your modules, you can sell it off on the secondary market. So the idea was obviously some of the shelf might not be reusable, but since it's a cheap laminated material, you can exchange parts of it, or you can change the frame or the insert. So let's say right now you are inserting like a microwave 1.0. Then a new microwave came in, microwave 2.0, you can slot it in. Obviously, the microwave has to be designed with the framework. So let's say Electrolux wants to design fitting for this particular system, they will have to again buy a licensing from Gamuda. So we said to them, it's not about manufacturers of furnitures, but also smart home system, appliance company. So if you can get integrated air conditioning system, for example, so it could be that, and you can get integrated appliances like stove, stuff like that. So it will definitely have diverse materiality, depends on the function or use.
I see. So it's in the larger sense, it's like a system, like it's like an integrated system across a lot of industry and not just one industry. So I think that somehow kind of represent most of your work. Like you always think from a system point of view. I think the same thing also goes to the market. So I think we would like to talk about the market. I think Nicholas Ng have a fair bit of questions. Do you want to ask Nicholas?
I have one though.
Hi,
I think hi Kawa. I think you maybe didn't have time because it's a large project, right? Very in detail. But I was just wondering whether how is the program like for after hours, or is this more like a 7 to 10 p.m. kind of market? Because you have the urban spaces above and the retail part. So.
It meant to be a 24-hour market. That's why what we're trying to do is that the ground is fairly flexible. It's just parking. So we saw that there will be an opportunity to be a huge living room for the people there, so you can have a lot of activities. But on the market floor, there is a huge courtyard, as I mentioned, and there's a lot of possible activities. Maybe if it is possible, I would share the screen for a while.
Yeah, sure.
So do you see it? All right. So hopefully, because of the central market, the central courtyard is huge. It could be used for recreational activities, and maybe if you have a short weekend, it could be sort of a music festival. So the idea was to create this. Of course, during market days, this whole courtyard will be filled by vendors selling nasi lemak on the motorcycle, selling putu mayam on motorcycle. But on market operational hours, it will turn into this thing, or maybe it could turn into like a food truck, stuff like that. As I mentioned last time, that the last engagement, I think I mentioned there's no open space here, so the school could have activities here as well. So actually, the courtyard is an extension of this community hall. So combine those two, we can have a huge open space. We designed this to somehow host some of the Georgetown Music Festival, Georgetown Festival event to be here. So it could also cater for civic purposes like voting station, or like Chinese New Year celebration for MBPP, stuff like that. So hopefully it has some range of flexibility to host other program rather than just market.
Right. Okay, cool. And then the other thing was, I asked, let me see, go right here. The workshop. Okay, I think Joey, the question on workshop. Maybe I just combine your question and mine. So Joey is asking, whether the workshop is an initiative from the government or from yourself, from the architect. And I'm asking, like, what were the challenges during the public workshop? Like, were you able to incorporate all the suggestions, or did you have to make executive decisions yourself to filter and edit some of them, without consulting them?
So maybe not all of you are aware, but MBPP Mayors is actually an architect. So MBPP Mayors, obviously he loved the idea. He's one of the judging panel. But he has his concern. Obviously, there's a lot of stakeholder to be answered to. So he kind of asked us to get the local people to give some feedback about the design. But I told him the design is fairly flexible as long as we get the principle of separating the produce, stuff like that, the streets, the blah, blah, blah. We can make it in any other site. So we propose to MBPP to make it a game-like environment. So it's a bit softer because, to be honest, this is actually the third attempt they try to get this market erected. So the first two attempts, the approach was, we design this market, we come here, we bulldoze your old market, we tell you what it is, you listen, and then, you know, eventually we get it done. But obviously, in this particular moment of time, transparency is very important. So when we come in, we don't want to have the same approach as the previous two failed attempt. So what we did is that we said we don't have a market design yet. Like, actually, it is true because we have to swap site and we haven't done anything in the new one. And we asked them for their feedback. Of course, in the beginning, they are quite hostile. The challenges was they are not so sure because they thought there's going to be like another round of those previous engagement. But they are fairly surprised that we actually don't present any design or any like physical things. Instead, we asked them to do some Lego stuff, do some mood board stuff like that. So the challenges is obviously language barrier, a lot of Hokkien speaking population there, and obviously MBPP officers are there as well with Adun's representative. So there's a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders. So the idea was, by doing this group exercise, we try to get a consensus, because if we get opinion of each person, it will be a verbal input. It is no use to us when we shun this visual input like mood board, Lego layout, stuff like that. It is a bit more communicative to us, and it's a bit more less reliant on language or understanding of language, because most of them can't speak Malay or write in Malay. So visual means is more more preferred, I would say. And we are glad that we are going that route. Obviously, we have presented like 200 something pages report to the MBPP, and obviously the stakeholders are, I wouldn't say 100% happy, because that is like almost impossible. But we have a common ground to proceed with the project. Yeah.
But can I ask, like, how accurate were the image? I mean, like, because you don't have someone who speaks Hokkien on the team, then you're using visual language and communicate to the laymen. And then how is that accurate to represent your idea?
Actually, we do. We have Jocelyn Tan, basically my ex-student from Taylor. So she's there. She's in Penang. So she helped us. So for like total communication blackout, we have her, and we have two MBPP staff as well to help us. So in a way, it's good, because you have to imagine they are market vendors. Obviously, they don't want their market to be disturbed. Exactly. But they are fairly perceptive. I would say I was expecting more backlash, but apparently we just got one, like really, negative one, just one, which is good, considering we have like 56.
What was that? Do you want to share?
Yeah.
What was the backlash?
What was the one?
Nothing's in specific. He's just against the idea of a new market. He likes how the old one works. By the way, we are not disturbing the old market. The old market will still be there. It's just like, this is like, we're not demolishing and then building on top of the old one. We are building like a adjacent site, like a neighboring site. So the old market will still be there.
I see. Oh, okay.
But they must be worried about, like, do they have to move to the new one, or would their business get taken away by the people in the new site, right?
Yeah. So basically, I think their biggest concern is rent. Right. Obviously, they saw all this new shiny building. Obviously, the rent will not be the same. But again, MBPP is very generous. Almost all markets in Penang owned by MBPP. None of them is profit making. All of them are loss, in a loss. So they should not worry, because they are doing this as their social community surveys. So I think the hesitance of the local population is this. This market is actually designed to be a drive-through market. I mean, the original market is a drive-through market, meaning that people don't actually walk in the market. They rode motorcycle inside the market stalls. I mean, the market, in between the market stalls. Obviously, you can get around the market faster. You can like order here, rode your motorcycle there, stuff like that. And actually, even though we don't tell the MBPP officer, this market, the reason why we feature a ramp to go up to second level with all the vehicular robustness, with all the street and whatnot, is actually to accommodate that. But we're not telling them it is in the manual book, this is how you should use this market. So actually, if they want to road motorcycle, they can road up, using the ramp and actually go through the stalls if they really want to. So, but of course, in the official document, we say, of course, this is street for pedestrian, blah, blah, blah. And of course, there's a lot of motorcycle vendors as well, selling a selamat on motorcycle, putu mayam. So that's why we have the square as well to accommodate those unknown factors. Yeah. So the hesitance come from not able to be riding motorcycle in the market anymore. So that's it.
Can I ask, like, is this observation? Sorry, Nicholas, has he answered your question?
Yeah.
I think just to ask, like, the observation of the motorcycle going into the market and buy something, was it from the site analysis that you did earlier before the project?
So sorry, again?
Was the observation of the motorcycle going into the market, was it from the site analysis you done earlier?
So basically, we never been to site before we designed this. It's a competition. At that moment of time, I think my wife just gave birth. So we are in confinement. So we have this limitation. But there is you can look through the Google Street View and you can see like a weird amount of motorcycle hoarding the market unlike any other. So you kind of try to, you have these small pieces of puzzle which you try to, collect and get them together. And eventually when we go, we have the opportunity to go on site. We have a 3-day survey. Of course, the workshop is not the only engagement that we did. We actually have an online survey and then online survey as a means of control, what the preference of the nationwide. And we have an on-ground survey that we did for 3 days. We get around, if I'm not mistaken, 200 something respondents. It's quite difficult again, because as soon as they see us as, a government officer trying to, survey them. I mean, it's quite difficult, but we managed to get it done. 200 is actually quite a lot considering the amount of constraint. And we only survey them during market hours, obviously, because other hours there's no people going there.
I see.
I wonder whether I can perhaps ask you on another aspect of this really wonderful project. First of all, sorry I didn't say hello to you when I first came in, because I actually haven't met you before. But I think the body of your work is really tremendous, and any architect anywhere in the world would be proud to have that in his or her portfolio. I thought the market project for me was interesting because it brought up just looking at your drawings, it brought the sense of romance. It's a very romantic layout, and it's very unusual. Of course, it's radical, different from all these markets that we see in TTDI and all those kind of places. I think your comment so far has really been about the if you like, the behavioral side of what your architecture induces people to go through, and how you organize the thing for people to get on here, get off there, sort of thing. But I'm interested in the architectural aspect. Looking at the video and quick run through the drawings, it didn't appear very tropical to me. It was kind of like a little bit of the Middle East, a little bit of the European thing, which may be lovely in themselves. It all adds to the romance of this place. Slightly more theme park-like. And of course, right in the middle is your, what do you call it, square, plaza thing, you know, which again is not quite a Malaysian thing. I mean, it's going to be like really hot from 10 to 3 or maybe even 4, and the surface will be really hot. So what thoughts did you put in towards the morphology of the whole place as well as the architecture?
Yeah, so in the original market, there is actually a small courtyard which supposed to give, you know, a break or a relief. So you can go through the stalls, and then in the middle there will be a courtyard where some sitting are in place. So we try to do that, but you know, obviously amplified. This the reason why we have a square is actually to make sure that you have this in and out experience. So in the market, for example, if you are in, for example, if you're Jalan Osman market, if you are in, you are in. I mean, if you want to take a break from, I don't know, from the seafood section, you kind of have to go to the perimeter, to the like, you know, the edge, the outer edge of the market. So with this, what we're trying to do, you can go in, obviously you can go out easily, as the shed is small, and the shed is actually, each shed are corresponding to the actual scale of the existing market. So in any space that you went here, so you will not have this like impression of this huge market, like huge horizontal floor plate, because you've been housed in smaller sections. So we try to respond, if you talk about tropical response, we try to respond it by, first of all, individual shed must respond to their own requirement. For example, seafood shed will require a lower temperature, so that particular shed will have better insulation, more you know, air room, and some sheds will have more ventilation, less air tightness. So due to the fact that we able to customize each shed according to each produce, first of all, is improving, you know, addressing that issue. So second, the market able to operate at their own time, because as you know, market vendors association, sort of, they have a market association based on produce. So penjual pasar, penjual sayur pasar, penjual buah. So they are based on produce. So we are trying to but we try to work on that existing organization structure for them to have more autonomy on their particular shed. So if the buah persatuan said we're gonna end by 10 p.m. and then the seafood say we're gonna end by 10 a.m. they can do that. So the idea was, when you have different operational hours, we cut the need for electricity, we cut the need of reorganizing, re-cleaning that particular area. So that's another way that we do that. Obviously, the the design is fairly airy. That's also intentional. We try to make it you know, breathable 360 on each shed, and of course the middle ground is meant for, obviously the main activation will be in the morning during the market session, and of course in the evening, where people can go play futsal, tennis, stuff like that. There will be you know, removable cots will be laid out by MBPP that is available for rent. And we try to, I mean, of course, futsal establishment can run up to 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So by 4 a.m., the seafood vendors will come in already at the logistical core and start to bring up their produce up. So we try to, you know, close that loop of 24-hour cycle program. Yeah, I think just take the square as if like a open, you know, open square. Like don't think of it like we need to address this particular area because of this is part of the building. It's just an open square. If it's rain, it's rain. If it's hot, it's hot. You use it when you can, because in this particular neighborhood, Jelutong, they don't have any like such you know, space. They don't even have a public park. I mean, of course, in housing estate they do, but it is, you know, private, gated, and there's no a space this big available to them. So this is like their last chance to carve this space out of these 6.23 acres. Before, because every other parcel of land is actually owned by property developers. Behind this market, actually, just nearby is a SP City development of 40 stories apartment, service apartment, on top of 6 stories parking podium. So you could imagine this area is very, very high density, and this is the, you know, the last beacon of hope of them getting, you know, any small patch of public space. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your answer, Kawa. Thank you for your question, Ian. I think the market is a very interesting project, and I'm sure we actually have more questions about it, but at the same time, we're also running out of time. So if you guys love to, we can discuss this furthermore after our second speakers. All right. So, because I also understand, like from Ian's point of view, whether is it regional, critical, and whether is it vernacular makes sense or not. And then from PowerPoint perspective, is designing more from an effective point of view, okay? So we can definitely debate that later, because in my opinion, the market is also like a library in a sense. So if you put into like an analogy, like in a library, you pass through the psychological section, you pass through the art section, you pass through the health section, and then to get to the book that you want. But then in the meantime, when you pass through, you kind of browse other sections. So it's the same in the market, like if you want to go to the fish, you have to go to the vegetables and go to the herbal section, and then you might actually get something that you don't want it in the first place, but you actually get it. So by actually segregating them, was it actually a good idea? So we have to leave it to that later because we don't have enough time. So but we do. I would like to end the section with the last questions more on the education part. Because like you mentioned that you teach in tailors, used to teach in tailors, and then you mentioned about, I was curious about the ideology, and also curious because you mentioned like you just have to do your part, as in like if you're good in 3D and just do 3D, and if you're good in modeling, just good modeling, etc. So in your opinion, do you think architecture is more on the specialist side or on the generalist side? Yeah.
So right now, there's a lot of, I mean, of course, you have seen a lot of people going through this platform, and you can see that there's a lot of avenues that they go through. Some people would love to, for example, Pamela that we had last session, which is she's good in her pursuit. So I think sometimes trying to do everything, because everyone has 24 hours a day. So trying to do everything will, you know, for example, like myself, trying to pick a fight with this big firm, established firm, is fairly a taxing move. I would say you need to be good at everything. You need to be good at rendering. You need to be good at drawing and actually architecture design, stuff like that. And they have hundreds of staff to do that. And one specific task is being done by a team, like the rendering team. There will be another team. The architects, and of course the draftsmen to draw the drawing. So that's steep. So I would say if you try to, you know, go around like you know, play the game that they are already good at, it will be taking a lot more of your time. It's going to be taxing, and if you go through, for example, like Sam, Adra, or Pam, you know, they can just immediately be there, like be the leader of that particular field, if you just focus on you know, your pursuit. So I know that there's a pressure of you know, conforming to practice. You need to, you know, go to the PBT, know how to design, know how to manage contracts.
Education is like training us to be good at everything, though, in a sense.
Yeah.
You have to be ace every subject, a kind of mindset.
Right. Because we are still lost. I would say. I would say I myself still lost. I'm in between, like either doing like truly conceptual or truly contractual. So I would say we are all the Hassan that I'm speaking about, the lost boy that tried to find a way where we are going. Of course, some of you have have already decided it's fine, but I think you should have that 100% focus, 100% pursue of whatever you want. I mean, sometimes it's very hard to make people know you for a lot of things. I mean, for myself, I like to position myself as competition. We do a lot of competition, so most of the people that know us know from competition, which is fine. We don't try to produce the best render, the best architectural solution, because you have to understand competition is relative. It's not a commission work. You are not privy to a lot of information. For example, this market, right? Some of you might thought that this is huge, this is like out of context, but bear in mind the alternative, the other 20-something submissions by other architects, by good architects, by the way, is 6 stories market, where the food court cover 2 floors, the veggie cover 1.5 floors. So because the site is small, and they actually carve a smaller site. Basically, they don't use the whole 6 acre, they use like 2 acres or 2.5. So they are stacking their market more and more. I mean, just imagine with parkings on top on the 7, 8, 9 floor. So relatively, this market is, I would not say is the best, but is the best that we can get under that circumstances. The amount of vendors is 300 vendors. The amount of motorcycle base 200, car park base 400, logistical base 7 minimum. We provide 12. So under that circumstances, I think we did okay. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kawal. I'll give it out to Kawal. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Oh, okay. 5 minutes toilet break or water break. Please go. We'll resume back at 9:30. All right. If you have any question, we can talk about it. But I think Kawal is tired. Thank you. Thank you.
So Joyee, where are you now?
I am in my room, like you said.
Damn. Jeez.
I'm in Singapore, my friend.
Right.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm okay lah. Too bored lor. That's why this thing come out.
Too bored. It's lifting next week, right?
Huh?
The CB, no more.
Yeah.
Are they not going to extend?
I think
It's called what? MCB?
Yeah, it's called CB. I don't know
It's called CB.
circuit breaker.
What kind of CB is CB?
It's
CB time.
It's not as fancy as Malaysia, like MC or movement control order.
Actually, I was got confused because sometimes they use BM, they're like PKP, and they're like MRO or something. I was like, oh, what the hell are these abbreviations?
Yeah, but then we are like supposed it will leave next week, but really not, only 10% of the company employees can go back. So I think that's gonna continue for a month, and then only we enter phase 2, phase 3 where it opens up more. But I think it's going to be, I hate to use this word, but it's gonna be the new normal in a sense until the vaccine really comes out. Like until then, we still have to wear masks and still have to do registration, etc. Is it the same in Malaysia?
It's the same. Like my friend just sent me. I just saw a story on KLCC. It's like, Jesus, the crowd is so big, and everyone's lining up just to go to bath, body, and whatever beyond.
What do we have that?
Bath, body, and work. I don't know what it is. Body, bath, and whatever. And I saw the lines like crazy. I was like, seriously, like, what is so important that you need to go and queue up for like 2 hours to get at?
Technically, you need the soap to kill your germs, right?
I don't know.
Malaysia allows for dining out already, right?
Yeah.
It's not like people dying out.
Yeah, you can dine out, and I feel like not all of them are consistent because I've seen some places that don't really have social distancing.
Yeah, no
I
one's
don't know.
checking.
Yeah.
Is UK or like Europe that side is the only one that not that stringent? Can share a bit. Haziq, Ivanka, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they don't really. It feels like they're very slow, lah. It's like 3 weeks behind the rest of the world.
Really?
But yeah,
Are people still going out and sunbathing?
yeah, definitely.
Are you
Even
serious?
like they've loosened the kind of the rules now. But even when the rules were strict, the parks were full.
Oh,
so
Yeah, what's the take on that? Because I see like overseas, a lot of people are using parks as a way to get away from like all this, like they're quarantined, but because the park has got a far larger space for
Yeah.
them to like socialize.
It's summer. They love the parks.
Yeah.
Summer as well, and, yeah.
I think in New York, my friend has been out in Central Park.
Yeah.
Those are normal. I guess it's larger spaces, but in the UK, I think the Boris Johnson allowed them, you can jog or whatever exercise, I guess, but only allowed
Yeah.
for one form of exercise during.
But there's
Same as
also like
Austria.
there's a bigger emphasis on like mental health as well. That was
Yeah.
kind of the whole reason why parks were open.
Yeah.
Because they were like, the benefits of allowing people to use the parks outweigh the risk. That's what they were saying.
Yeah, I guess in a way, like here the equivalent to a park is a mall. So most people are just trying to find time to just relax their minds out of it.
Aircon.
Yeah.
How is it on your side though, Eric? Yeah, Eric. Yeah. Oh my god.
Hello, can you hear me?
Another mic.
I need to buy that mic though. Like everyone has that mic. Even Carl.
This is not a mic, this is a headphone, but I'm just lazy to wear it.
I see. So how is it? How's the COVID-19 impacting on your side? You're in which part?
I'm in London as well, so it's very busy because I live right next to one of the famous park.
Which one?
Hampstead Heath.
Sorry,
That's massive though.
Hampstead Heath.
It's quite, it's quite
even though it's
sparse as well.
massive, but it's packed with people. I'm not joking. I think people are abusing the rules of going out to do one form of exercise each day, and then they just use the excuse to go out and they just sit there and drink.
Well,
the sun.
I mean, like Clarissa said, it's summer. I would want to be out too.
Yeah,
especially last weekend it was public holiday here.
Oh yeah.
Like literally everyone's just out because the good weather doesn't help at all. Whenever the sun is out, people are out, and yeah.
My favorite thing is when they follow the sun.
Yeah.
They put their blanket and they follow it
in
the afternoon.
So usually I work around until like 7 o'clock, and then I will go out for a run, and then I will finish around 8 o'clock. That's the time when the sun's starting to set. Then whenever I run to the park, you can see like people actually like really tipsy, and then a bunch of them were like carrying their beer bottles and then just making noises and then walking around the park.
Are their bars closed? Is that why? The pubs?
No, the pubs are not closed, but they get alcohol from the shops and then they bring it to the park.
Parks are the new pubs.
Yeah. Yeah, literally everyone's drinking in the park.
Number there though, I think like how's the statistics doing there? Is it like how many people? Do you have any idea?
I have stopped following the numbers, to be honest, because
40,000 deaths.
I think
care.
There's no point of keeping track.
That's for mental health as well.
Yeah, I think the numbers are so high, people just stop caring about it, and also they stop testing people in a way, and they stop announcing the numbers of people getting tested. So I just don't believe their data anymore. Just wear a mask whenever you go out.
Yeah.
Awareness.
Just don't go to the comment. All right, cool. Is everyone back? Let's just see. Hi. Okay. Is Kawa back? Oh, Kawa is gone. Hi. Okay, yeah, so I think we have passed 5 minutes. So thank you. I hope you enjoy the first session Q&A. We definitely have a lot more questions to cover. We can talk about that later. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our second speaker, Miss Peggy Yong. And she's going to talk about the summer school program from AA. And then, yeah, here you go. Yay!
Hi, wait, let me set up the screen. Sure. Okay, so you can see it fine now. Okay, so I will be sharing with you the summer workshop that I run as part of the Architectural Association AA London in Budapest, Hungary. The workshop is called the Uncommon Walk. And today you will see the collective work that we have produced for the last 2 years. And I will also tell you through the agenda of the workshop and some of the behind the scene footages. I would like to start with a quote from Honoré de Balzac. Is it not truly extraordinary to realize that ever since man has walked, no one has asked why they walk, how they walk, whether they might walk better, what they achieve by walking, whether they have the means to regulate, change, or analyze their walk. This question very much echo with our question of walking in architecture. We experience architecture through movement, yet we never reflect upon what these activities of moving on 2 feet could bring to the study and intervention of architecture and the city. This set the quest and agenda of our summer school. In the beginning, we were invited to present at Fuga, Hungarian Architectural Center, with an exhibition called Prologues to the Uncommon Walk. So we asked how walk can measure, narrate, deviate, essentially probe that how you walk determines your architecture. The first workshop designed by our tutor, Nick, develops a dictionary of walker, and later on the Walk City translated movement based on the works of George Perret, Infraordinary. So essentially students were asked to consider walker as subject. Question how, why, when, where they walk the way they do. To develop this, students were sent out to document real characters walking on the street in downtown Budapest and to represent them in a way akin to Edward Murbridge, as seen in the reference image on the left, study of the locomotions, animal locomotions. So students were asked to actually look at the movements, posture, expressions of the chosen walker and represent them, expose them in time and space, in diagrammatics, narrative, and photographic means. They then have to reflect on the relationship between the walker and the city and propose modification to augment that connections by means of inventing rule. Students are asked at this stage to trace their own work and to apply rules or restrictions and documentations. This exercise will allow them to kind of impose purpose and extract material content that would help them to kind of design intervention for the city and propose special modifications. I will talk you through the selected examples. In the first year, we have project from Maria and Yong, who were looking at the everyday man, the kind of typical commuter work that characterized by boredom, routine, and detachment. His name is Peter. To augment Peter's work, they imposed a rule by stopping at every 30 steps. And they made sure they would take pictures of the landmark or any object that would actually attract them. And as they started doing so, they realized they ended up cataloging an array of everyday objects. And with the design proposal, Yong confronted Peter Wall with the cast steps, a size of a typical floor tile that can be slotted onto existing pavement. These steps are of an unusual form unusual form and texture you will see later that would force him to go up and down, around, or over or around it to kind of open up an opportunity for Peter to engage with his immediate surrounding. So some of the images of that, of the tiles. And Maria, on the other hand, was looking at how Peter would leave his dress as he walked by measuring her own steps at 70 centimeters wide. A deposit is designed to leave behind to form a trace of a wall, and you will see later on in this video. So same starting point, but two different results, both very subtle yet impactful. One changes the way Walker works, while the other one leaves the trace, a travel trace, and started to influence us, even the passerby, to be part of the scene. And last year we have project from Hannah and Sarif. They were looking at the fragility of an old lady, May, under the harsh sun, and curious young worker Wendy. They was attracted by the dark hallway. For the augmented wall, they focused on roadblocks and rest stops, where the sun guided the changing direction as they were drawn to more shaded paths. Very much related to the weather of the time, which is in the middle of the summer. They're increasingly noticing people taking shade or rest behind architectural element. For the design proposal, they made a concrete facade with slatted opening to illuminate interesting pattern that would actually encourage a sense of surprise and engagement, and also a kinetic screen that you will see later on. Both are prototypes that can be used as a roof covering or wall partitions. And these are images of the work in progress. And we like it very much when students are documenting well. And for them, they did a lot of video, as you will see now. Wow. And another one. They have made a line of productions like in the factory. And also students are asked to make sure all their proposal will be able to fit onto this urban walker that will later on be part of the exhibitions. And this is an image of them on the day of final jury. Moving on, we have a project from Sarah and Biboka. They were looking at the often different interests between couples. So on the right image, you will see that the boyfriend suddenly stopped in front of the church, and the girl stopped and wondering what the boyfriend was doing. And as soon as she found out, she walked away without waiting for him. So for the on wall, they look at they invented possible route for couple with different goals. So one of them were measuring the steps between plaque on the wall, while the other one looking for Instagram opportunity. Through the study, they realized how many plaques there are in the city and how no one notices them, and how some plaques were being respected with flower while some being vandalized, and how the infrastructure informative plaques would always have to negotiate between the monumental one. This also tied back to the urban room that they were previously studied and commented on. For the public room, for the urban room they were looking at, they were very popular before, but now less and less so, because it's becoming too intimidated for the general public to enter for the reason that it's too grand, too proper, and protected for commercial reasons. And just a quick summary to explain the urban rooms. And you see the Nolly plan. It was actually drawn up by students by using the body and movement as measuring tools, by means of, for instance, how many arms did it take to measure the building length, or how many steps it takes to walk from point A to point B. And so for the design proposal, they imitated leftover junctions between the plaque as kind of idea and intention to say that small action can take place within the urban junctions. By means of small actions, for instance, opening up a beer bottle, putting your chewing gum on, hiding your garbage in the small crack, and also for you see in the video.
It is very hard to smoke cigarettes here, so he actually went very close to the church, and he decided to use a wall to light his cigarette, because that was something that was not that windy. It was sheltered from the rain.
So all I know is a street furniture proposal for street furniture that would encourage misbehavior in the city. And these are some close-up images of that. And moving on, as mentioned before, as part of the workshop requirements, students are asked to present their work in public. And in the first year, we made this urban walker with the students. That is part of walking device, part mobile exhibition, and we actually took it out on the street to showcase and present to the public. It's an awkward yet imposing movement, provoke delight and curiosity from passerby who occasionally stop and ask questions. It also kind of irritate police who prefer it to be out of sight sometimes. And last year, we conducted a performative final jury with the urban book walker across downtown Budapest. You will see on the left image the kind of route we take from the point A to where the exhibition was held. And this is the kind of video of the parade. And also you will see the kind of trouble that the student had to get through to get the urban walker to move from the exhibition hall to the point, the first locations for the presentations. And how the structures has to constantly negotiate with the urban landscape. So for the final jury, we invited 10 external reviewers. Some of them are local young architects and educators. We have also reviewers from neighboring countries, Austria and Germany. Strangers were welcome to join. We had a girl from Russia and an old lady who followed us all the way through. And you will see in the next a few images the presentation taking place across different locations. And as I mentioned before, these little performative pieces of urban intervention has been inspired by the actual walkers on the street and their initial urban rooms. The word review kind of reasserted these ideas of special modification back into the actual urban context. There are more projects that I'm not showing it in this presentation, but you feel free to look up for them in our Instagram page. And then as we parade back to MES, Associations of Hungarian Architects, for the exhibition opening. And this is the morning before the final jury. We only had half a day to set up the exhibitions. It's a kind of quick time lapse for you to see. The exhibition are open for 1 month long in the summer. This was during our first year in Budapest Project Gallery. The setup is very much like an urban scene as well. We had to use whatever we can find, and so as you can see, the concrete models were displayed on door leaf that we found, booklets on ladders, and we have to use column and space, and also the rice grain on the street on the floor that would then be reversed by the visitors. And the works were re-exhibited as part of Budapest Design Week at KEK, another architectural center. And unfortunately, our third edition, which was supposed to take place this July, has had to be postponed because of the COVID-19. We will have it next year, and we will actually carry on with what we have set up to do. We will actually utilize the worker from day one, and we are planning to host an open call for ideas to kind of adapt the worker to invent and celebrate the inclusive principle of urban activism from day one. And as part of the concluding event for next year as well, we would host an international symposium with established keynote speakers that has contributed work in the form of working in art and architecture. So we have Francesco Carri, who is a professor and author to Wordscapes, Karen, professor and author to Walking and Mapping. We have Mark, founder of Rome Labor Berlin, and Ryan Dillon, architect and tutors at the AA, and David Birch, an artist from Belgium whose work always inspired by walking. And I will end my presentation actually very briefly on our first night out with the students in the first year, and last year before the exhibition, after the exhibition opening. And I think I still have time, so I will play this 3 minutes video to show you the workshop, which essentially like the workshop was only for 10 days. So you will see how the 10 days has been unfolded last year. That's it.
Thank you. I think I think before we start asking questions, perhaps just to understand a little bit more. So you mentioned this is a 3 years program, correct?
Well, this is just for our Budapest Business School. We wanted the brief to be study for 3 years.
Study for 3 years, and then perhaps can you explain more? Because I'm actually curious on like why you pick specifically walking, and also like how does this 3 years actually related? Like, what's the continuation? Like, how's the exploration?
Well, I think we definitely. I think with becoming more and more. I mean, our exposure becoming more and more digitalized. I think there's a common interest between the group of tutors that we are avid walkers, and we always we kind of like the slow and personal
activity.
No, like the kind of approach to architecture. And I think because it kind of help you to, because we believe that this is, we believe that we can go back to this kind of method that we have used before to kind of design. And it's more a personal, you can say more personalized approach, but it's also open an opportunity for special modifications or dialogue that can be wonderful, because we don't believe necessary architecture to just through top-down planning or kind of, so it's a completely different kind of approach, I guess. And I'm curious, we don't know the result, but we are curious to see what the approach will bring. So we set up for a 3 years program, because 1 year would be too short. After 3 years, it would be too repeated, we believe.
I see. Because I asked that question because like among us, like a lot of us is like actually playing an educator role as well in university as lecturers or tutors. So when you plan this 3 years program as a co-program head, I'm just wondering what are the challenges, or like what are the outcome that you want the students to experience, or is it open-ended kind of research?
Well, we set out in the first year that we can, I think as much as the kind of education, the AA, you often have a brief, but the outcome is not pre-designed. At least for most of the units, they are not. And we always like students to challenge. We like it when students will be able to, to find fault or make it better than what our brief is designed for. So we are not. So sorry, what is your question again?
Is that an objective that you want to drive them, like the outcome that you expect?
Oh, definitely. So actually, we kind of give a tool. So we have the design workshop that would inspire that will lead students in certain directions. But the proposal is always through tutorial and conversations, and that they have to take lead in their own project.
I see. So the material, like how they go about with the resources as well, like they propose their own resources, like using cardboards, or like the one that you show.
We provide because we set up with an idea that we want them to be exhibited, but they are not limited to those material. But we make it available for them, which is wood and concrete. And they have a wood workshop that they can work with. And we have students that have project using films as their final project, which I'm not showing today, but it was done in the first year. And the students had no architecture experience, but he came from filming background, and he decided to do that. And I encourage students to write as a piece of, write a piece of essay or do sound recording as part of the outcome. I hope we can see more of that in the 3rd year.
I see. I think funding might be an issue as well, is it? When it comes to
what do you mean? Like,
then would it be difficult to get funding for like the program?
Well, students pay a fee to join the workshop. And of course every school is different the way they want to allocate the fund. And also student had, anything student want to do, they can facilitate that, and we will try to help them to facilitate that, because it's a 10 days intensively we stay together. So so last year there were students doing a lot of play structures, so they went out to source balloons, candles, and all that. These are not expensive, and I wouldn't say funding is a problem for them to achieve what they want to do.
I see. All right, so guys, go sign up now for next year 2021. Okay, we do have some questions in the group chat. I would like to extend them. Start with maybe Jowin, you want to ask?
Hi, Peggy.
Hi.
So what are the challenges you face bringing people from different backgrounds in this summer school? Like, how do locals find this program? Does find this very intruding, or something that could benefit the local itself?
Well, to answer the second question, we get very good feedback from local academic and also architects. In our private conversations, I mentioned that the dean of one of the local university who was head of the urban design commented that they like the personal approach to the city, and it was interesting for him to see some proposal from that kind of approach, because in the urban studies you always look at the city through big plannings, and you see that maybe they can propose a different, rather than from scale 5,000 to 1, it can be from 1 to, let's say, 1,000 or 5,000. So it was kind of a good feedback from the academic, and also we have local collaborators who I think for them is special. For us it's quite special as well. Like, I'm not used to designing a building or looking at city from this kind of very hands-on approach, and I think we're getting very good feedback. And yeah.
How was the public, as in like the general layman's? What's their feedback?
Well,
I find it resembles to the public workshop that Qhawarizmi did earlier for the market project.
When we were out doing the public review, a lot of them actually stop and ask questions, and we see that as a very positive feedback. And as mentioned before as well, some of them joined us all the way to the exhibition hall, which is interesting for me. Yeah, although I wish to hear more from them, so we see whether. That's why I think with the third year, when we are having this kind of international symposium Q&A, maybe we will get more direct feedback from the general public. Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you. Clarissa, I see you have 2 questions over there. Interesting. You may pop them. You need to.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I was just wondering, at this time, like now, where we can't touch the city, I wonder if you have any ideas on how to shift it online. Like, have you looked, for example, like Digital Humanities Project, where it encompasses sight, words, and some multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary nature? And also, I have another question. Let me find my other question.
The machine.
Pardon?
Yeah, you're right. Now, the machines collects the interactions between the hard and formalized cityscapes and the human.
Yes. So for me, it's for me, like, it reads as in opposition to this kind of, because maybe it's because you're in a European setting, therefore it's very formal. So it reads in opposition, and it seems to hold something that's informal and social and something of substance, right, to record. So I wonder what's the next step after you record all of this kind of, as you call it, urban activism. How do you mobilize that? So yeah, two.
Sorry, can you explain again the second question?
Because I see the machine that you've kind of generated, it's almost sits in opposition to the formalized cityscape that is kind of that we see in European cities. So it almost seems like something informal, and you're collecting something that's temporary, right? And collecting all these social nuances. So I wonder how you're going to use this kind of information that you collect, which is seemingly temporary or nuanced for that certain year or that certain moment. I wonder how you're going to use it in urban activism, as you say that this is one of the ideologies of your visiting school, no?
Well, yeah, okay. I will answer the second question, but if I forget the first one, please remind me.
Sorry.
So
I have very long questions.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't say that what the students, the kind of question students were looking at is temporary. I think some of the issues has been long existence. For instance, the project for Sarah and Biboka, where they were looking at the urban rooms that they were looking at that becoming more and more commercialized and they can't enter, and also other studies that encourage them to design projects that encourage misbehavior. I wouldn't say that there is temporary, although this is only a 10 days events and so much work for students to produce each day. There's certain depth that we can go to, but I think the idea is quite strong for them. And actually for Sarah and Biboka, they went on to write a thesis about it in their school about the project, which I haven't read. It's in Hungarian. I should do with translations. But there are students that take it further, which we are very happy about that.
Right, it's only 10 days. Sometimes we
it's only 10 days, so
it seems like months.
Yeah, there's a certain limitation, and that's why I think we want to run it for 3 years as well. To see what kind of conclusion we can draw upon from this study. And as of the first one about moving digitally, I think it's a bit of a shame with the brief that we set up about exploring the city in a very dynamic way. We thought about that, and it's a shame that we can't do that because we feel that it's kind of limiting the kind of exposure or perception or the kind of teaching we hope we could inspire students for, and that's why we postponed it to next year. But definitely something that as tutor we would have to look at how we can address these issues if we would have to stay digitally. So it's a question that maybe I have to answer you later on.
No worries. Thank you. I think it's a very beautiful project. And as you said, these are things that maybe have existed for a long time but goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. And I think move on to Farah. Farah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I think you asked something about the mock-ups and also with the Trojan horse thing, right? I'm actually quite curious, like how is it related as well?
Yeah.
Your question.
Sure. When I first saw the triangulated collapsible structure, it's very interesting. It reminds me of some kind of a facade that can be operable, open and closed. So I'm kind of wondering how the mechanism of a collapsible thing is related to the walking experience in an urban setting, like how the public react to it in the video.
Well, I think it was part of the proposal as a shading device, with the concrete with the concrete one that you see. So it's a two-kind proposal that they were looking at two different material, whether it can be roof covering or wall partitions.
I see.
Mm-hmm. And during the jury, the students had to kind of perform it, so they would actually draw it down as they were presenting, and they so it was funny because this side was supposed to be on the other one, but they chose this, the photograph that you see, because it had the sun at the time, so they had to make sure that it cast shadow during the presentations.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's the sun orientation in a way.
So it's as if it becomes like a curtain, is it? Like a shading device?
Yeah, I think, it's also drawn by the context and the images that they took, where the people were taking moment of rest against all these architectural elements.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I think Ben has questions, but he cannot speak. I'm just gonna ask on behalf of him. The workers in this project tend to have a destination in mind. Has the study looked into the role of a worker who more of an explorer or visitor? I think more like a traveler walking without destination. And how is that translated into the working where their habits, behavior, reaction or response towards the environment can be hard to determine, making it harder to define the working wear. The question, is it too abstract?
No, well, I'm reading the question as well. I wouldn't say that the workers that they study in the school tends to have destinations. Again, with Sarah and Biboka, one of the couple were actually tourists, and that's why for the subsequent walk they were looking at the Instagram opportunity. I'm not sure about working wear.
I think what he meant by working wear, it's like all these the few examples that you have shown us earlier.
I think it's the first one with the guy with the curved pavement thing.
Yeah.
Is he referring to that? I think he's referring to that, no? the first project. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, because like in that first project, it was clearly like when he was mapping the guy, I don't know what his name, Patrick something. It seems like he had a destination, like he would go somewhere.
Oh yes, I think it is the kind of worker that they documented. They call it a typical commuter guy. So like maybe going off from work back home, so he know where he's heading, and thus being maybe this is a routine walk for him as well. That he became very detached with the city.
So how does the one with the powder tracing on the floor? How does it relate to that?
I think they were both looking at it differently. I think one wanted to influence it, and one not wanting to influence it, but just wondering where he is heading.
I see.
You get it?
Interpretation of the brief, I guess.
I mean, for the first year, a lot of the project were looking at walking itself, and subsequently for the second year, the project, because I think we introduced the urban rooms, and also how we wanted them to present, near to their site. It became a lot about the city, addressing the issue that they find in the city, and about spatial modification. And we like that as well.
So a bit on the urban roam, it's more like a knots. Is it like, if I were to refer to Kelvin Lynch terms, it's like a knot, like a social public space, is it? The urban room?
Yeah, well, urban rooms for us is the publicly interior architecture. So it's an urban rooms. And we chose to look at urban room because they are getting more and more kind of privatized or commercialized in the city, or some of them you can't even enter. But then previously, because it play a social part in the city structures, fabric, and how it's also provide a moment of rest or pause in the city, which is related to our kind of agenda. So we decided we want to look at that.
Is this something specific to Budapest, or is it?
Wanted to ask that too.
Because I'm just thinking, yeah, the urban room, and also, like, in selecting walking per se, like, does it have any relationship to, walkers? Is it very much a walking city, or do people walk often?
Well, in terms of urban rooms, no. Like, you can see urban rooms in any city. To give you an example, maybe like Milan, the
Victoria Emmanuel, the Emmanuel Plaza.
Exactly. So these are the urban rooms. And in terms of working, definitely not to just Budapest. I mean, I would like to look at how this brief could be studied and work out in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like, if people no walk, don't walk. Where is that?
Yeah.
Intervention there. Okay, cool, interesting.
All right, thank you for your answer. Any more questions from the ground? Guys, those who have not.
I have a question. Like, could you explain again why was it scaled in those blocks? I couldn't get it. I didn't get that.
Okay, so I think there's okay. So we designed our tutor Nick designed the urban structures because we wanted to have a device that they can kind of exhibit with, but it's also a working device because we want to break away from having a very internal or inward conversation as maybe some school would be. And so we always have the idea that we want it to be, with the public, or we want people to give us feedback. So we make sure we have structures that can be brought out. But then by doing that, we have to give certain rule. So we have this 30 by 30 grid, but students are welcome to go beyond that. 30 by 30 grid. But also there's another limitation, because if they were to cast in concrete, and if it's too large, it's too heavy and too hard, too many days for them to dry. So they often, first work with the 30 by 30 grid. But you can see proposal like the kinetic screen, there is not constrained within that size.
Right. So it's like a scaled down sculpture piece. It ends up being a sculpture piece kind of thing.
Yeah, well, scale down. Well, depends. Some can be one-to-one, like the tiles, and some can be a scaled down versions of the idea or the proposal.
I see.
Thank you.
No worries.
I also add one to Carissa's idea on the machines, and also sort of datafications that possibly we have to do it online, and also with servers and machine and more digital machines. What I think is this sort of very down to earth data collections are still plays a very important part in our reality right now, because if we have this sort of full perception on going to digitalizations, on using digital technology to collect data with sensors. I think cities that have all this, but the thing is the data is not owned by you personally. You don't have ownership on it. You don't have autonomy. So you don't feel that belongs to you, but it's more likely belongs to a state or a company. But with this more localized tracking, localized data collection systems, what I call a system rather than a machine, give you much more a sense of ownership, that you can actually collect it as artifacts rather than a digital intangible entity that you can't see, and then you probably will get threatened by it in many ways. So I think the discussion about if you want to put it into a digital format of digital, between digital and also this tangible, it's still a broad agenda that we have to debate because there's no policy in protecting our data for digital companies. And for this very traditional way that we use based on maybe the boards are still relevant today. I think it's just that how could we translate this into how do we save this data and then rationalize it or triangulate it into some data can be used as data that we put in a computer that means it's quantifiable, because all this is most likely to me is very qualitative, you know. Yeah, but I think this is still something that we should look into, but not to be so distracted by the sort of technology that we have right now. Yeah.
Hence, I cited Digital Humanities, which is a qualitative-based digital platform.
Yeah.
As a methodology.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea of privacy is definitely prevalent.
Yeah, prevalent. It depends on the context itself, geography itself. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not against technologies because I come from a technology background and I still love it very much. But there's a digital divide between us. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting where Clarissa also brought up the sort of Autodesk collaborations or algorithmic programming scheme for Qhawa. I think it is pretty much the future that we're heading right now. It's sort of bring a concern that it sort of threatens the role of architects, this technology. But are you guys prepared for it? The thing is, because we like to talk the theoretical part of it, of technology and architect, but are we prepared for it, the technologies to help us? It's so different, the world in technology and the sort of architecture we live right now. And okay, regarding vernacular, the vernacular, I'm really just asking what is the meaning of vernacular? Because we are going to define a new vernacular that's going to happen next. The vernacular now is adapting to a climate they will live in, the natural climate. But when the climate are intervened by technology, the Anthropocene is no longer local climate looking at. It's a climate that's intervened by tech. So how do we define vernacular then? And after that, you have critical regionalism. How do we define that next? Yes, I am not an expert in critical regionalism, but I'm keen to explore that region because my mentor.
I think you're pinning them against each other, which is not really helpful for this conversation.
Yeah, I know.
Rather, it's the in-betweens and the nuances between these theories, which is much more helpful to read. That's why there's these, if you look at Latour, he talks about, how
Latour,
yeah, which is talking about how we have never been modern in the first place.
Yeah,
and it kind of goes against this idea of vernacular if you're thinking of that as before modernism.
Yep. Okay, I mean, we just end here. Probably next session we can talk more on black box theory.
We have a big word, this jargon throwing around. Maybe.
Why not Qhawa tell us his nasi kerabu theory?
But before we do that, so I thank you, Pei, for her sharing. Yeah. So. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Yes, we can ask Qhawa about nasi kerabu, but also before we ask that, I actually have a questions for both of the speakers. So I mean, I kind of see it relevant, like because Pei is in the educational industry somehow, but then I think Qhawa also teach in tailors and then or like some other institutes. So in a sense, I find the similarities like Pei's workshop. It's like a 10 days thing, and then whereas Qhawa teach in a university is like a long-term ongoing kind. So I'm just and then Qhawa's is in the local context, and then Pei is right now in the European more European context. So I'm just wondering like what is the how do you put it? What's the difference? And also, what do you see the impact of the education that you are giving to the next generation of architects or designers? And maybe we can start with Pei, if you understand my question.
Well, in terms of context, I don't see our project is very is to say Budapest based, but I mean the more we look at local, the more we do project locally, I think we will start seeing proposals that are more and more locally based. But the main difference that I see between what Qhawa present today and what the collective work that I have showed today, the distinct difference is between the kind of designing through actions and designing through kind of planning or kind of top-down approach, as mentioned before, and we discussed as well this during the Q&A session. I think that's the main difference that I see. And I think both approaches necessary in architecture. And I think what we often, I mean, in the traditional kind of design methodology that we use or we learn in the school is always, through science analysis, and then you have a proposal, and then perhaps that's it when you have a design proposal. But I think what we try to do is to have another step, which is to revisit personally your proposal. Whether it actually bring any changes to the city. I mean, to say that we have made changes to the city is a big statement, but I think what we are aiming for is also to change a bit of the perception or value that for any participants or people that being exposed to our project would have maybe just a moment of think, or maybe this could be a way of doing things. I think that is good enough for us.
I see. Okay.
If I may ask, would you see this the uncommon walk being applicable towards Qhawa's market project? Because since the market project is a new proposal, a new idea of formatting certain directions towards each spaces.
I think for Qhawa market project, what I liked a lot about his comment on this fish seafood store next to the vegetations and why the arrangement is that way, and how actually markets require walking, but of course with the Penang it would be a totally different feeling when you are actually on a bike, and I'm curious how does it work being on a bike. I think it definitely changes the kind of action and reactions between the buyer and the vendors. And I think this kind of I would definitely like to test it out, whether it can be how it would actually influence in the market, which is essentially an urban scene. For sure.
How are your thoughts on this in relation to the uncommon walk?
Yeah. All right. So I would say the public uni. I taught in public uni and private uni. I taught in UiTM before, Taylor's, and now currently I'm in UCSI. So I think in my case, we just want to establish a vocation of architecture, meaning that they can formulate architecture solution, they can identify issues, stuff like that. I think the refinement, of course, is due. Obviously, as I mentioned, it is competition drawing, so it's not like an actual set in stone. Everything has been dimensioned. There is possibility of incorporating some of the learning, some of the principle that Yong shows. But to talk about the Qhawarizmi thingy, maybe if you could understand this, what it meant is that Qhawarizmi is a lot of is a meal with a lot of components. I think that more than a dozen. There's sambal belacan there. There's a lot of things there. The main idea is the collective sum of that is more important than individual. There's no star in that dish. There's no like sambal is a star, right? Usually, but in a nasi kerabu, everything has been mixed together. So that's what it meant. So if we pigeonhole ourselves, let's say I pigeonhole myself to like an ultimate shopping experience, an ultimate logistic machinery, an ultimate social condenser, it will just not work. So because, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, of course, you need to think about logistic at the same time. So that's how the kerabu thingy work. We try to make sure that all these different aspects, we have like 1001 of them, and try to make it to look like one, to look like a dish that works, even though they are coming from different parts, of dish. Some parts of it savory, some parts is salty, some parts of it sweet, stuff like that. So that's what that's what I meant, and that's what we're trying to do with the market.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's the explanation. Any more questions regarding the market? You guys may ask now.
Oh yeah. I almost forgot. I thought there was like there was two towers of residential, right? If not mistaken, there's a tower of residential behind the market master plan.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't show it in the presentation, right? The shop house scraper, I think, isn't it?
So sorry again, like
the residential towers.
By Expedia, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's together with the market, right? Isn't it?
No, not actually. I mean, there's a lot of proposals. I mean, a lot of other architects do integrate the what do you call it, the parking podium of that service apartment into the market. But we don't, because actually because the reason why we don't, because in the earlier submission, we actually designed the market on the other side of the road. Maybe I did not explain the premise. Actually, there's two sides for the market, okay, divided by a road, Perak Road. So you can either put the market on side A or side B. So out of that 20-something, I'm the only architect that put the market on side B, which is a little bit, lower rise of the side of the road. Eventually, they asked us to put it back in side A. So that's why there's a change after the workshop. So yeah, the reason why it's not connected, because it's obviously ownership issues, security issues, but ultimately it is still flexible. We're still working on the iteration of the market.
So I have a question. So the market will be built eventually?
Hopefully, I don't know. It may be like you can go there in the next 5 years or 6, because right now there's a lot of ownership issues. There's a lot of what do you call it? There is already an existing residence. There's 6 or 7 temples. There's 1 government clinic. So on these two sides, there's a lot of land ownership issues that need to be dealt with. So I don't see it to be, undergo this construction anytime soon.
I see. Would be nice to see it built.
Yeah, hopefully.
So
we get them.
All of us, we can go to Penang in the next 5 years, like after 5 years, 6 years. See you. All right. Thank you, guys. Have any more questions before we would end the session today? Good. Just the silence that I need. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pei, and thank you so much, Mr. Kawal. I hope you guys take away a lot of ideas and inspirations. So before we end, I would like to ask for everyone to turn on their video so we can have a good selfie. All right, and then, so this selfie you can post it on the Instagram, whatever social platform you want. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you, guys. So I'll send out an email later on. So from there, you'll find a link to Concrete Matters Facebook group if you want a recording of tonight's video or the previous video. So for future any updates or the upcoming session, you can find it in the Instagram. So if you have any more questions to the speakers, you can also find them on their Instagram, or more infos on their project that they have shared, you can find them on their website. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.